Je vais parler de Do I lament the loss of my social identity in my post-fire life? And if not, how did I get here? I'm especially interested in this line of thought after chatting with Wifey because our views actually diverge a bit here. Rare, but true. Ayo. Zanpakuya. So I think this is probably one of the most niche topics that I can think of because frankly, most people are not retired early and even out of that small group, not everyone will have this problem. But I am talking about it because I know my lovely wifey does feel a bit of ways about it. And that essentially boils down to, well, what am I if I am not working hard as a worker bee, so to speak? I think this whole threat stems from our internal household conversation about what it means to be defined by something and how wifey finds it hard to introduce her current lifestyle to regular, normal people, okay? Yeah. I get the sense that she wishes she could call how she spends like her days now in a way that is more palatable to regular folks, right? Now, we used to do that by defining ourselves based on our work somehow, and I want to break down how I think that premise itself is, well, kind of silly, okay? And then I'll suggest how I go about solving this problem. Not just what I call myself post-fire, because I'm pretty sure I already ranted about that subject specifically in the past, but really more about the why of what I'm choosing to call myself. Mental game is always the end game, and I hope some of you, perhaps a sliver of people, might get something from the crazy rants of this internet stranger. Anyway, if you're intrigued by what I might say, please subscribe, like, comment, share, all that social media buzzwords, or whatever, because I'm rich enough for me and I'll be great regardless. Okay, so number one, people tend to define themselves based on the profession they choose. Pretty common, right? If you meet someone, you might say, I'm an accountant, or a dock worker, or a Uber driver, or whatever it is that you chose to do. That is probably the easiest options for most peers to understand, but my main problem is that this option is not really something to be bragged about by, I don't know, I would guess a slight majority of people who have regular jobs to begin with, okay? Sure, if you're a doctor or engineer or lawyer or something, you might be proud to say that. But what if you're a waiter or a janitor or a fast food worker? There are way more regular folks, and those professions are just, well, jobs that pay bills, not exactly a field to be super passionate about, right? So my real point is, what if you're just not that into your profession, but you're good at it? Do you actually want to be defined by whatever happens to pay your bills? I guess another way to look at it is, how many people around you do you think are actually passionate about their jobs? I would not guess a majority. And for all those people, defining yourself based on this subject just seems silly and ridiculous. Okay, by the way, I include myself in this. I was in advertising. I would never want to be like, this is it. Advertising is who I am. Now, second way I think a lot of people define themselves is based on the company they work for. This one in particular, I think is hard to get over for wifey and I because, well, we met at work and we worked for a world-famous technology company named after a common fruit. Did I mention this company has some real crazy hardcore fans? So it's especially nice, right, when I work for this giant FANG company, not just for me, but for instance, my loved ones, my parents, right? If they mention who I work for to their friends, it equals instant admirations. Oh my, what a cool place to work for, especially it's a great and beloved company. But I would say hold on a second here, okay? That's fine and all, but I've also worked for like 5 other companies in my relatively short corporate journey, right? Most of which would have been met with blank stares if I told people, you know, on first meeting, okay? And that's my major problem, defining yourself based on the company you work for. Most companies aren't big and provoke at best a neutral reaction or a non-reaction. So who cares? Now, even if you do end up working for, let's say, a well-known brand, those are usually large companies, and just working there means very little. What does that mean? You know, let's say if you work for McDonald's, right? It could mean that you're in charge of some important corporate strategy, or it could mean that you sweep the floors at a local franchise. So the company name itself tells you nothing. about a person's level of contribution to society. And yet, somehow this is one of the ways we miss because we can't quote-unquote say we're working for a specific representation of the man anymore. Why? What? Now, my final point is, since both of those options I mentioned are not real options anymore in post-fire, how do I get around it, right? I feel like if I want to say something fancy, I just say I'm a portfolio manager or I'm a financial advisor, because that's true. I have a client list of just me, okay? Obviously, I don't say that other part about the client list out loud. This is a fine job description because it is both true and it is also finances gibberish to normal people. And yet, it's respectable, right? It's respectable, but most people don't understand it. At the end of the day, what I'm driving at is the idea of defining yourself based on work type or workplace is just a matter of perception, not reality. Normal people do not know whether you're a good accountant or lawyer, or whether you're actually useful even if you do work for a well-known company. What they want to know is how they compare to you on a arbitrary social hierarchy scale, right? This is where I put my complete freedom in my fire life to use, right? I don't lie because I'm lazy. I don't want to bother remember what I said to who. But I can present a different facet of my reality depending on my audience, right? If I want people to stop asking me what I do, I say that whole finance-related answer. If I want to be a fun guy at a party, I'll say I'm retired because obviously I don't look like a senior citizen yet. It's as easy as that. There's no one answer in my opinion. FIRE gives you maximum flexibility though, so you could say a lot of things. So in conclusion, is it a problem that you can't just default to what you do or where you work as a definition of who you are as a shorthand? No, I think not. I think it's more like a minor obstacle, right? The reality is, I think it was easier, definitely, okay, when we had corporate jobs. Because, you know, if we say what we did or where we worked, the listener would make a series of assumptions, and that's that. We did not need to do anything else as a speaker, right? Now, when I answer a question, if somebody asks me what I do have to take a moment and assess my audience first, right? So that is an extra step. But I do think there's advantages to this new version of life as well, because, well, now when I make a new friend, I know it's not because they think I can get them a discount on the latest iPhone. At least that's the plus. Okay, so am I off my rockers? Please feel free to yell at me below in the comments. Or don't. Do whatever you want, okay? Until next time, cheers a la Protion.